So good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome to another edition of the Pure Digital Passion Podcast with me, Moses Kemibaro. And today we're going to be exploring the future of the internet in Africa, specifically insights into ICANN's new gTLD program and the ASP with Pierre Dandjinou. Pierre is the Vice President of Stakeholder Engagement for Africa at ICANN, and we're really delighted to have him here on this particular conversation. He's going to be talking to us about the ICANN new gTLD program and its applicant support program. And more importantly, what this opens up is an opportunity for businesses, communities, and organizations worldwide to create their own top-level domains. These are critical identifiers on the internet, such as .com or .org. And what makes this initiative groundbreaking is the ASP, which makes the process more accessible by offering up to an 85% reduction in evaluation fees, along with training, pro bono services, and other resources for applicants. This particular program is specifically designed for Africa and Kenya, where it provides pathways for branding, cultural representation, and also economic inclusion. It's a key step in leveling the digital playing field, allowing small players as well as underserved communities to participate in shaping the internet's future. So joining us to unpack this initiative is Pierre, and he's the Vice President of Stakeholder Engagement for Africa at ICANN. Since joining ICANN in 2012, Pierre has been tireless advocate for internet inclusivity, driving programs that foster engagement across governments, civil society, and the private sector. His leadership has been instrumental in implementing ICANN's strategic vision for Africa, enabling greater participation and representation in the global internet ecosystem. From his deep understanding of the technical and policy aspects of the internet to his passion for empowering underrepresented communities, Pierre brings a wealth of experience and expertise to this conversation. Pierre, it's an honor to have you on this podcast. Welcome to the Pure Digital Passion Conversation.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Moses.
So, Pierre, I'd like us to start off basically just to sort of break down this entirely new development that I think is super exciting as somebody who's been a practitioner in the internet space in Kenya and the rest of Africa for over 25 years. But let's just first start off understanding who is Pierre, what's your background, and what is it that you do at ICANN from an African perspective?
Yeah, thank you very much. As you already said it, I'm Pierre Dandjinou, and currently the Vice President in charge of Stakeholder Engagement at ICANN, and I'm particularly in charge of African countries. ICANN stands for the Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers. Basically, what ICANN does kind of fall in two sort of areas. I would say, first of all, about coordinating the internet, how the internet works, how the internet operates. You were starting by talking about domain names, for instance. These are one of the resources that make the internet work. But most importantly, there are many of them. You have what we call the IP addresses, which is the one that is understood, what we might say, by the machine, that are your servers. And then you have the human sort of language, which are the names, the domain names. So you might say that the internet, it's a network of networks. We know it. But we also think that the internet is about the history of names and numbers. And that's why we are talking about IP addresses that the machine could understand, and also the human language. Now, all of this works because we do have servers. All of this works because we do have, this sort of coordination. And that's exactly what ICANN does. When you type www.safaricom.ke, for instance, this is, human language. How does the machine understand that exactly? And that's what we do. And we do this because we also have what we call the root server. Because internet is about, of course, this root server. It's also about, the names and numbers. And we might also say that when you are on the internet, it's also like you are just sending, a message, a letter to someone. So you need his address. He also needs your address, and you also need a channel. So internet is a channel. And the second thing, basically, thing that I would say that I can perform is the policy development around those, resources I just mentioned. We mentioned domain names, we mentioned IP addresses. All of these are critical resources. And you do need to have proper policy in place so that you could govern all of those. Because the whole thing boils down to governance. How do you govern all of this in such a way that it works for everyone? And basically, it's also about having an internet that is unique, that is interoperable, that is secure. That's exactly what ICANN does. So my role in this is as a VP and to make sure that our not only vision but our strategy vis-a-vis different places are conducted. So as far as Africa is concerned, we do have a plan, an Africa strategic plan, which we follow, and that's where the whole aspect of the work we do, which is the engagement that we do throughout Africa, contain that strategy. It's about technical engagement. We might be training people in workshops so that they could master what we are calling here the resources, how to manage them, how to operate them, how to secure them. These are part of the thing we do. But we also are also participating into events, African-wise, events that will really showcase what is happening and what we do as our remit. So basically, that's about me, and that's also about what ICANN does. And yeah, I think that's certainly some of the things I should be highlighting. Yeah, thank you.
Well, thank you so much. I think I'd like to get right into it and maybe talk about the new gTLD program and why it's so important for the internet ecosystem in Africa and beyond.
Thanks so much. When we are talking about the new gTLD program, we are talking about something which is quite important, and this is about how you, at this juncture, you can just think about inclusiveness. How do we make sure that we include all those inhabitants, all those people that has a right to be on the internet? How do you open the opportunity for all? That's exactly what the new gTLD program, is looking for. Let me also remind you that, in fact, this is not the first time we are launching the new gTLD program. The one we launched in 2012, for instance, make sure that we did open opportunities for 1,200 domain names today. By that time, 2012, well, we could not count more than 20 names, domain names. And you know them, in fact, those gTLDs, the .com, .org, they were the first one that we know about, .edu. There were only 20 to 22 of them. Now, guess what? After those first launch of the new gTLD program, today we count on 1,200 new names, including the like that we have in Africa, which is the .Africa, for instance, which has become one of the domain names, .Joburg, .Cape Town, .Durban. All of them exist today because of this program. So this time, and maybe before I actually elaborate on this, what we call now the new gTLD and the Applicant Support Program, ASP, maybe I should just remind us that what happened in 2012 was a bit sad, I would say, for Africa and for the what I might call the global South. Meaning, for instance, from Africa, only South Africa, one country, came up with those new names. 16 of them they came up with, because the new gTLD round is about requesting for new names. So unfortunately, from Africa, we did have only 16 names. And the 16 names, the new names that people were requesting were coming from just one country, meaning that there was some issue there. Probably people were not informed. Probably people were not resourceful, I don't know, but the poor reality was that one. So that's why this new program is going to be quite different in terms of preparing, giving more preparation for those who might be eligible to go for this new gTLD. So new gTLD round, like I already say, is about opening up more opportunities for doing so many things. Not just about business, selling domain names. It also can be about your brand. You want to brand yourself. You also want to be present on the web. Say for instance, your community. You may have community-based, top-level domain. So there are different, uses of those domain names that we might, contemplate. Now, maybe I should just also quickly refer to something because that might not create a confusion. We are talking about new gTLD program. G meaning generic top level domain. That's new gTLD. And the .com, .africa, all of that I was talking about, these are the gTLDs. But in opposition, I would say, to gTLDs, you have what we call the ccTLDs, which is a country code top level domain. So when I say, for instance, .ke, .fr, or .uk, I'm talking about ccTLDs. These are country code domain name. So this is quite different from new gTLD. The country code domain names are managed by whoever is designed by either the community, the government, there could be university, but they are managing the .ke specifically, which is a registry.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you want to come to new gTLD, you want to kind of operate new names, gTLD names, that's where you go into this program. So this program is quite different from the ccTLD, which is a different market. Now, back to the new gTLD program. We are going to open that officially in 2026 by April. But before we get there, we are having an additional program that we are calling Applicant Support Program.
That's the ASP. Yeah.
Yes, that's the ASP. And of course, the ASP itself will be running in parallel with another program that we are calling Registry Support Program, which is RSP. So when we are thinking about ASP, we should be having those two denominations in mind, just because the ASP is about you as an applicant. I mean, you need to kind of decide whether you want to go for new names or not. You also need to abide by a few rules, or you need also to be requesting a kind of different categories. And the categories for you could be should be non-for-profit. You should be SMEs, small and medium enterprises. You could also be kind of community. People say, for instance, your Maasai people, for instance,
Mm-hmm.
if they would like to be there, to show their presence online, well, they could go for .Maasai. So all of this is open. Of course, we also know that you, as an applicant, might not be directly in the business of running what we call a registry, meaning that may not be your business to be running or to be selling domain and offering services around this. So this is done by different categories of people, of, I would say, corporation, of businesses. And these are the one we call registry, services. Now, maybe quickly on the ISP, it has to come, there's a certain criteria that let us really know whether you qualify for this. Of course, your criteria could be that you are, as I already said it actually, you are one of the four categories, which is the non-for-profit, you are kind of, SMEs, community-based, see, and in fact, you are brand also. You want to have your brand. For instance, your Safaricom, for instance, I mean, in Kenya, but it could be any of a brand name that you want to have. Well, you could go for it. And of course, you promote your business and you also, your business or your name, all of this. Now, as far as we are concerned, the program is concerned, there are a few things that we need to consider. We need to consider, for instance, your general business due diligence. Of course, you'll be coming with some documentation, and we are going to evaluate this. You also must show kind of public responsibility, due diligence. Financial need, because the ISP is also about providing some financial support. Because becoming an applicant or running a name, a domain name as a registry comes with some financial resources. And you might say maybe in the last round that was one of the issues. We don't know why people did not really come up, in big numbers, especially from developing countries. But this time yet, the ISP is going to support from 75 to 85% of the total amount that you might need, which is quite important. I will give you details anyway on what you need to actually go for those names and then running them. I know as of today is about 225 millions of dollars, but you should know. Did I say million? Should be 2027, I think, thousand. Yeah. And for that, 75 to 85, could be kind of, we'll take charge of this. You might not be paying for that. But of course, you need to abide by a few criteria. So we may also look for your financial viability. And finally, you have to also to have an eligible, status. As per the name, as per the categories are listed there, we may see whether you demonstrate to be within those categories. And one of the things that I would like maybe to highlight here again is that the portfolio. I already told about the non-for-profit, intergovernmental, all of this. We want to reduce, the waived, basic registry operators fees. It's quite important because it's money, especially from a developing country. So that's what this program is here to do. You also want to have a kind of, you want to qualify, you want to provide us with all the documentation that we need, but you also want to be in a position to kind of demonstrate that, okay, I would like to be having services from a registry service. So you are also going to show that, and that's why the second program I was talking about, which is the ISP, is about actually those registry that could provide pro bono services to you.
So this
Obviously,
is
you know.
so this makes
Go
sense
ahead,
in a
please. Yeah.
scenario. If I was just going to give an example, say the community of the Maasai, say they want to register Maasai, and then the registry services could be provided by a third party on a pro bono basis.
Yes,
Fantastic.
that's exactly what it is. So it means that you know also about those registry that are going to provide you pro bono services. Okay, so ICANN is maintaining, of course, a registry, or not registry, but the data bank of those can offer these services to you. So it means that you are not just left on your own. The support is not only, I was just saying, financial, but it's also going to be technical also, which is quite important, and so many other services that they could provide to you. Maybe one of the things, once you eventually qualify, because you present some of those documentation we need, because we did all our sort of due diligence. Let me also remind that we already launched the ASP as of 19 November. So only 10 days, sort of 10 days ago. It is launched, is going to be for a whole year. And it's also going to be as first come, first served basis, which means that for the whole year, starting from 19th of November, you are in a possibility to come forward because you are prepared to say, well, I would like to benefit from the ISP. And from which A, B, C, whatever category. And here are the documentation that really prove that what I'm saying. Here is my business, my occupation. Here is what I'm doing in terms of public sort of responsibility wise. So once you do have all of this, maybe what we might need now is to go through your journey. Because as an applicant, there's a journey for you. There are a few steps that you need to have until you reach 2026, where now we are going to launch now the program itself. That's where you now go prepared to request for your name. And for that, of course, there is a journey, like I already said. Of course, you must have your gTLD, the name. You must select your name. We already said, say for instance, Masai
Yeah.
to stay in Kenya. It could also be any other name. I don't know, whatever, Kinshasa, whatever. So all of this could qualify. Shall we say Mount Kenya? Well, maybe, I don't know, you will let me know. But because sometimes the name that you are selecting might not be coming with, any dispute,
Yeah.
there's something we call dispute resolution.
Yeah.
So you may come on, but then you are ready for dispute resolution. And we also have, laws. We also have regulation for kind of running those, discussion, because it's rarely come the dispute. It can come because different countries, say for instance Amazonia, you know the history of Amazonia, where Amazon will say, well, we are claiming Amazon, while countries, in Latin America will say, well, Amazon is our forest. It's about our forest. So we are not ready to go for it. So you need to find the ways in which, well, you provide this to whoever, made it. Anyway, so that's some of the things. You can also then follow this step by step, because once now you deposit now your evaluation, of course, ICANN is going to have, people are going to evaluate and then provide the responses to you. You have time to have those responses, and the next, they will tell you. The other thing that you should also know as an applicant is that we are going to publish what we call the handbook, the applicant handbook. That's where all I've been talking about here, that's where this document, contain all of these details for you. Now, for the new gTLD itself, you should know also that you need to have what we are calling it's a guidebook. The guidebook for the new gTLD program could be seen as your Bible or your Quran, whatever, if you want to go that route of new gTLD program. So this is going to be published by end of next year, 2025. That's where you have a comprehensive view of all this program, and you follow detail by details, different aspects. So yes, definitely, the question could be why one should be going for that. Why should anyone apply for this program? And there are many responses for that. I already said you want to promote your brand, you want to promote your community, but it's also about inclusiveness. We want to include, we want people to be in the loop, I would say, of this digital economy. And one of the way you do this is, for instance, when you go to the internet today, most of the time, the language you are using, there are those languages that are coming with the alphabet, the Latin alphabet, A to Z. And what you do is there's kind of develop a script, a specific script that could make sure that your language also could qualify to be on the net. So if we are promoting your inclusion, it's because we also think that you could also be working on having your languages develop their script and be on the net. And that's what we call internationalized domain names, meaning if tomorrow a country in Africa, I know your country, for instance, Kenya, well, what, 30 plus, 40 plus, in terms of population, and I guess maybe 40 plus languages. Question could be, okay, which language do we want to promote on the net? And one example that we already done as ICANN is this Ethiopic. When we were in Ethiopia, we support university to work on the script of the languages.
So in
All
Amharic
yes,
characters.
yes. Almaric today have what we call the script, and this script can easily get into the internet. What we need now is that Ethiopians will come up with name in Almaric and request for this internationalized domain name. And they will run it as the Chinese have been doing for now 10 to 12 years when we introduced this, as the Indian also have been doing. And Arabic also today is on the internet because we develop those scripts so that today is not just about A to Z as Latin script. We can still have different other scripts in different other languages that we can use. So this is also an opportunity for Africans to be on the internet, but also to kind of be to do whatever they can do, business, leisure, whatever, in their own languages. This is the maximum sort of gain for African and for different other places anyway, if you want to go that route. Now, I'm already talking about the timeline. So we open this ASP 19th of November for 1 year. The RSP, we already start evaluating the RSP, which is the registry service, program. We are already kind of evaluating some of them because those who want to come forward and offer those pro bono services. And again, from African countries, one could also be in a position where a few registry also come up because they think that they could be providing these pro bono services. So I think this is something that African could be looking forward to. So this is about that one. Then I said the new gTLD itself is going to be launched 2026 April. Okay. So probably what do you want to know exactly, which should be okay? The timeline, of course, you master the ASP. What do I do to qualify for any support in the ASP? That's important for me to know.
Yes.
And also you need to know about the timeline. Because if you don't know about the timeline, the moment you are interested, maybe we have already closed, this door. And that's why we are talking about this, but it's going to take basically 2 years as of now
Okay.
for you to be, ready and go for it. So, yeah. So we spoke about, the timeline. I hope it's clear. We spoke about, okay, I didn't get into the development of the financial sort of, resources that you might need. But I did mention the 220, 20, I think, dollars, $1,000, which is something that we said can be kind of eventually difficult for people. But like I said, if you qualify as an applicant for the program, you can also have a waiver, and which is about from 75 to 85%, waiver for you. Of course, the registry services are different sort of matter. The way they run, the way they operate, of course, they will be here to also educate on those. They will be here also to let you know exactly about the different services that you need to obtain from them. And so I think this program, all in all, is about, openness, inclusiveness, openness because we want to open more opportunities for people, not just financial opportunities, but opportunities to be on the net. So I believe this is something that we should also be considering. Of course, there are other issues about, the security on the net where the service provider will be there for you. And I also think that what people, of course, we may need to know exactly what are the responsibility for the different stakeholders, because that's also important to talk about the stakeholders. I didn't really dwell on that, but I would say that ICANN is basically about, we do have a stakeholder sort of model that whatever we do is everyone has a place there. The government, the GAC, for instance, Government Advisory Committee, but we also have the at-large who are at ICANN, and then we also have what we call the supporting organizations. I mean, the organization represented by the CCTLD operators, by the gTLD operators. All of them has the IP addresses I spoke about also. They do have their own grouping, and all of these, they provide this sort of strategy and sort of policy development as I talked about until the ICANN board decide on what to go. At this juncture, let me also thank, or recognize that Kenya has been there at ICANN in different ways. Kenya has been there at the GAC, Government Advisory Committee. You already have always someone from your country contributing to policy development, and through the GAC where the government meets. And I remember your current rep right now is Dr. Vincent Ngundi, for instance, who is quite conversant with the way ICANN does. Of course, I would like also to recognize your participation from what you call people, Kenya, that serve on the board, because we also, our board decide a few things, and it's quite international board. So I would like to thank, Dr. Catherine Adeya, who is currently on the board. But before her, we did have, your board, late Njeri Ronge. She's been there also. So yeah, we recognize that an active participation of Kenya. And of course, we are hosting our engagement, office, in Nairobi. So yeah, we will say that Nairobi, Kenya has been kind of participating to ICANN. Maybe one or two things I will also say. I mentioned the brand TLD. If you want to brand, maybe if a company want to raise their online image or promote their products, or deliver services to customers and partners, they could go for the brand TLD. And I cited the example of Safaricom.
Mm.
Yeah.
But do they still get the benefits of the 85% discount?
That's a good question. Because depending, if they are coming, of course, as a kind of business, that can be an issue.
Okay.
But we said we are aiming at small and medium sort of businesses. It depends on what they claim to be. Say, for instance, if the municipality, I don't know, want to come for Nairobi, for instance, then you have to demonstrate that, well, it has to be a non-for-profit, for instance. So that Nairobi could qualify as gTLD, I mean geographic top-level domain. I mentioned the community-based. We cited the example of .Masai, but we could have many, many more of those. And those who are purely generic, I know that in your country also you do have what we call Safari. Safari is offering, is selling registration, is selling, domain name. So yes, they can also come up for that one. Now, ASP is here to build sort of capacity and provide technical and financial assistance as well. So I think these are the key words or I would like us to retain when it comes to the ASP. Well, you may also want to know maybe about the challenges that we are facing, not just in Kenya, but in Africa. And also how ICANN is eventually trying to support, and help alleviate some of those common challenges. For instance, most of the time, you spoke about connectivity in Africa. And connectivity by the way, Africa is about 30% of the population that are connected to the internet, versus maybe 60 to 68 globally. So what can one do? You do have the infrastructure for accessing the internet. ICANN, as I told you, our remit is the DNS, domain name, system, which I'm going to again talk about. But beside of this, you do have the other infrastructure. I mean, the submarine cables. You do have different type of them. But I would like just to talk about the DNS infrastructure, which is where we really work, and that's where we are actually supporting the internet, facilitating accessibility in Africa. So we do have what you are calling the DNSSEC, which is DNS Security Forum, that we train people on it. We call it also the roadshow, where we make sure that people come and sign, their zone file, because you need to sign your zone file so that you make it secure. You know that today there are so many threats also on the internet.
Yeah.
So when you sign your zone file using this DNSSEC I'm talking about, then your destination is secure. So that's something that we are doing. We are also kind of installing what we are calling servers, kind of what we did. In fact, in Kenya, we had one in Kenya now, which is called a cluster of server, which makes sure that when you are querying on the internet, website, for instance, that you don't have to go outside of Africa and back to Africa, because you already have server there in your locality, and that already, provide and process your query, process your query. Of course, you gain time, you gain, and you gain money at some point. And the ISP also, which is Internet Exchange Point, which is something we also deal with, where you make sure that you keep your traffic local, and it's also important, all of this. So these are basically one way we as ICANN are trying to actually contribute to reducing those challenges. The other thing maybe I could be talking is this. I think you mentioned it recently. It's the role of government. Of course, government are here to make sure that those who could be applicants know about it. So spread the word, just as we are doing right now as ICANN. We are trying to spread the word so that people understand the program and understand what it takes to be a member of this program. That's basically what we are doing. And we would like governments, I'd like to be also interested in this. Different other stakeholders, as I mentioned, we want them to be interested. We'll be spreading the word. And of course, I hope that concretely things will be happening next year, when people will maybe have decided to go for new domain names, know exactly what to do in terms of the registries, in terms of what documentation I need to put together. And also, of course, the registries, they also have a role to play. We would like to have them also play this role, which is about explaining, and also about providing best cases or showcases to people that are interested and that would like to be compliant. So this is partly what I wanted to share, and of course, feel free to any other question. I'm ready to cover it. Hello?
There's a certain level of complexity, I think, to this process. It's not straightforward. If you're a community, let's say the Maasai, and you want to register Maasai, you need to bridge with a registry that is able to handle it on your behalf. And then there's also the question of, fairness and accessibility in the application and evaluation process. How are we able to tackle these specific challenges?
No, that's a good question. Like I said, of course, we need to continue spreading the word about this new program. And also, we are conversant that it can be challenging, and that's why we need to explain the whole thing. Now, you mentioned very important aspect, which is the evaluation. And your question was, how are we certain that this evaluation is really going to play on maybe on our side? That could be the question. Well, most of the thing is being done by not only by ICANN. Most of the evaluation going to be performed by people who are already in that business, who already know about how it works, how it operates, and of course, these are these sort of kind of neutral organizations that are going to be assisting for the evaluation. So I think you should be quite certain that for that, ICANN has put together what's important, so that because the point here is about trust. You have to build trust in the whole process, and definitely yes, I think ICANN has done what it takes to have this evaluation as neutral as possible. Guarantee you that. But yes, that's an interesting question to put.
Okay, great. So going forward, what do you see the new gTLD program in terms of shaping the digital economy in Kenya and Africa for the next decade? Where do you think this could actually go?
Well, in fact, your question boils down to, what do we want to do with the internet for the future?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it could be anyway. But let's maybe those philosophical aspects we leave it behind and say, what is the applicant program concretely going to provide to internet and to the digital economy in Africa? And one of the things we notice, for instance, is that when we consider Africa, places where we could showcase that are really in a position to kind of harness this new gTLD program. We've already seen some of them in our report, because ICANN conducted a report that was out this year on the domain names business or industry in Africa. And countries like South Africa, Nigeria, Kenya, Egypt, Morocco, and rest, for instance, were cited as where we are already having important domain names registrations, which means that people are understanding a few things that we need to understand when it comes to these new domain names, which is about being present on the net, being visible, okay, on the net. For instance, SMEs, for instance, will be happy to be present on the web today and showcase whatever they want to showcase. We spoke about the communities, what we call them, the brands. All of them being on the net certainly are going to transform the African digital economy at some point. And that's quite important. But some of the things that we need to be doing, and maybe citing this report, but since you put the question, is about regulation. How do you regulate the whole thing? How do we govern all of these things? Specifically, when you are talking about domain name, you're also talking about internet by. So how do you govern the internet from your own place? And one way of doing this, for me, is of course contributing to some of those work that we are doing as ICANN, but also being on considering the African strategy. I know Africa Union has got the strategy, digital strategy for Africa, but also institutions such as Smart Africa also is doing quite important. They have projects across the board, and by the way, we have just signed an MOU with them, so that we'll be working on a few projects, especially the internet governance. They want to be working with us. and providing capacity development for CCTLDs. They are ready so that we have joint programs. So these are related to what we do as ICANN, the DNS. These are some of the things that our countries should be doing differently. Meaning getting more and more interested by those things, by participating into global policy development, by also organizing the local sort of environment in terms of the appropriate, regulation that you put to place, and the regulation that recognize, the place a good operation of your domain name matters. It's not me. I'm not going to get into details on how people get from the domain name because that's not the role of ICANN. But we know that there are many registries there that are kind of making their own money. So we will guess that, well, in Africa, that might also be something that people are interested in. So presence, I think, and the new gTLD can help you have this digital presence there. And that can be important for so many areas. Yeah, I think that's what I would say in terms of how to do best, in Africa, especially when we've been running from place to place in Africa. I think it's important also to have this regional collaboration, meaning for addressing common internet issues. It's not just, I would think that it's not just about one country doing it because we didn't get involved into data because content is key to all of these things. And content is not just about your country, it's about neighboring country, it's about your region. So all of this could come with a kind of regulation, policy that to put to place. So all of these are things to be done. But yeah, I would just, from ICANN point of view, think that we need to promote participation in a regional forum and networks that are related to internet governance, so that you strengthen what we might call your voice in all West African countries in global discussions. So it's also about your voice, your presence, and the inclusiveness is important. Knowledge exchange is important. Of course, technical assistance, we are doing this as ICANN. Cyber security, others are doing it, but we also are part of it. And the internet governance, we really promote the like of Africa Internet Governance Forum. I think we support those. Regional ones, the one in Eastern Africa, we support. And from time to time, even the one from countries, like Kenya, we also do support. So yes, I think in a nutshell, that's globally what I think that we as ICANN could be doing to make sure that some of the challenges that countries are facing are really lessened. Yeah.
Well, Pierre, thank you so much for sharing with us. I think you've really given us the end-to-end picture on the new gTLDs and also the ASP program. I personally am very excited. I'm seeing also opportunities that many people can take advantage of at the community level, at the brand level. It's exciting to see, of course, that the likes of South Africa have done this before. And definitely, I think we'll see the likes of Kenya and other African countries also participating with this new initiative. More importantly, I think there's enough of a timeline, especially with the handbook that you mentioned, for people to really immerse themselves into understanding what is this, what is the process, what are the steps, what are the key considerations around the nature of the organization that can actually take advantage of this. But I tend to think that it's going to require a lot of education. And even for those stakeholders who stand to gain the most, reaching out to them and saying, are you aware that this opportunity actually exists? So as much as, again, it's a great opportunity, but I think a lot of education will be key. Stakeholders need to understand the opportunity and the potential. And I think it's wonderful to imagine that, you can save 85% of the cost, but also work with registries that are willing to actually help you manage that domain space in a way that is practical and hopefully even can be profitable. So thank you so much. We really appreciate you joining us for this conversation on the Pure Digital Passion podcast. And quite frankly, I'm really looking forward. As you mentioned, it's only 10 days now, but let's see over the coming year how many people sign up, how many people get involved. And I'm sure you're going to have stakeholder engagements going forward. And personally, I'm looking really forward to the potential, the opportunity that this presents for the different stakeholders across Africa.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mo. I know
Yes.
that in Kenya, for instance, my colleague over there are planning already a kind of webinar. We are going also to do this in different other places, not only in Africa, but elsewhere. And you are right. You are right. You rightly pointed this out. It's about educating, people about this new program and what they can take, from it. So, and we are here to spread the word and also to make sure that we do the support, as we said, within ASP and ISP. So it was a pleasure to share a few views on this, knowing that we do have a massive, role to play for at least the coming 1 year or two. So thank you for having me.
Okay. Thank you so much. And thank you for joining us.